I have been waiting to start this project for quite a long while. Today I finally found some signs that Nigel is ready to be shed out. There are a bunch of clumps of his hair around his pen, so I think today is going to be the first day that I catch him up and start his shedding process. As usual, he does not want me to get my little hands on him. It is a good thing he is so old because otherwise I think he could trot around for quite a long while. But after a minute or two of jogging, he is a little bit out of breath and I can finally get my hands on him. As you can see, he is a little bit of a dingy brown and it looks like he actually has whole pieces of turds in his hair. I don't understand how he gets so disgusting every single day. This is a really good sign that he is actually ready to be shed out. The weather has been getting a little bit cooler at night, but it is finally above freezing most of the time. So if I wait any longer to get most of his hair out, he will probably start getting pretty hot during the day. Since he's out of steam, it should be pretty easy for me to catch him. He is such a little stinker. He hates being doted on. I actually think he would be quite happy if I just fed him and left him alone most of the time. I do think one of these days the old grump is probably gonna give in and let me smother him. But for now, I still have to do regular maintenance on him every now and then, so whether he likes it or not, he is going to get caught up today. And after a little bit more prancing around, finally he gives up and I can catch him. I do want to make sure I have all of my tools ready for today's little adventure. This is the one that I use for most of the horses. A lot of you guys have been asking about it. It is a pretty basic wooden block with a little metal blade in it that has tiny little teeth. The teeth grip the hair and just kind of tug them out. I also have this rubber one that a lot of people like, but I don't really care for it too much. It's good for their legs and the more sensitive areas. I have a regular rubber curry comb and then this old one that you can flip around. I do have these little scrubber gloves and I don't know if they're gonna work, but I might give them a try. I also have one of these Slick and Easies. These work really good once the majority of their hair is out. They are kind of like a little pumice stone. I will go ahead and unwrap it for you guys so you can see. Just has tiny little holes in it. It's good for getting the loose hair and also it kind of wipes away the dirt as well. So I think with all of these things, I should be able to get most of his hair out today.
Come on, let's go.
Huckleberry is acting a little bit strange today. It sounded like one of the neighbors was shooting at the gophers and Huckleberry is pretty scared of guns. I also caught him digging in the manure pile earlier. Nigel looked like he has dociled down and is slowly meandering away from me, but he shouldn't be too hard to catch now. He is kind of moving at a snail's pace, but before I catch him up, Huckleberry has gotten himself into a little pickle. It looks like he is really scared of something, so I'm going to go ahead and put him in a stall in the barn so he doesn't run off. Sometimes when he's scared, he goes to the neighbor's house and hides in their garage, so I'll just put him in this stall for now. I don't know exactly what he's scared of, but he looks a little bit worried. Now back to Nigel. He is so incredibly hairy. Oops. What a little stinker. I know he's gonna feel so much better once I get him caught up and get rid of a lot of his hair. I think you guys are going to be so surprised when I get rid of it and you realize how small he actually is. He is not quite sure what I'm doing with my phone out today. But here are some of his extra long hairs. They're already starting to blow out in the wind. He is pretty dingy, and in addition to the little tiny pieces of poop in his hair, he does have some mud as well. His mane is a dashing green-brown color. And naturally, he's going to try his best to get out of this little chore today. He seems pretty unimpressed, but that is not going to deter me. He is such a pretty pony in the springtime when all of his hair is shed out and he's actually clean. I'm really going to try hard today not to end up covered in hair, so he is going to get shed out inside the barn with the doors closed. I would really like to give him a bath, but I think he still has too much hair. I think the best bet with this little guy to start will be the classic curry comb with the extra long spikes. This will not hurt him. It will not even get down to his skin since he has so much hair still. I could tell right away that this was going to be a bigger task than I had anticipated. Typically their hair comes out pretty solidly in chunks, but his is kind of just pittering out. I know I talked about it in another video, but I did switch the type of vitamin E these guys are getting, and it does seem to have delayed some of their shedding. I did switch most of the horses back, but Nigel is still on the old stuff. Since he is so old, I do get him tested periodically for metabolic disorders. The last tests we ran on him were totally fine, and he really doesn't have any signs other than this long hair coat. Since I got him at the auction, I have been very careful about what he eats. A metabolic horse would also have kind of a blubbery tail over here. But Nigel is in very good body condition for his age. He was foundered when I got him, but I haven't had any other problems with his feet since fixing them. He is a little bit annoyed of me tickling his underbelly. It does seem like he has quite a few long hairs that are still pretty solid. In order to make my job a little bit easier today, I am going to get all of his flowing locks out of the way. I typically do not braid his hair because he manages to get them undone in a day or two. I'm not quite sure how he does it, but as soon as I come back the next day, usually most of his braids are out. I did fix him up with a little man bun today too because his face needs to get shed out as well. Of all of the places on his body, his head actually is the poofiest most of the time. His mane must provide him with quite a bit of warmth because his neck doesn't have quite as much hair on it as the rest of his body. Nigel does have a double coat, so it's a little bit different shedding him out as opposed to my normal horses. It is one of the reasons why he is so comfortable outside when it's freezing and really windy. I did put a blanket on him when it was super cold this winter for a few days, but he probably didn't really need it. I am having some trouble deciding what is the best thing to use. This you're supposed to use flat, but I couldn't get it to work that way, and this way isn't working either. It looks like I'm just gonna go back to this older curry comb. I did flip the blade around so it is a little bit of a shorter spike. It doesn't really seem to be working any different than it was before though. Nigel is a pretty cool dude, so he doesn't squirm around very much. I am going to give these gloves a shot while I have them out. Someone did get these for me off my Amazon wish list. I think they are perfect for giving baths. It does seem like Nigel is a little bit annoyed. They are pretty pokey. They are also making a little bit of a mess of the hair. I think if these spikes on the gloves were a little bit more dull, these would work better, but I can tell that Nigel doesn't quite like it. I am able to get deep down into his coat though. I think I'll just save these for when I actually give him his bath and go back to the old trusty curry comb. The first day that I shed out this little guy, I just keep brushing him until no hair comes out, which can take quite a while. I am just gonna flip this back to the side that has the longer spikes to hopefully get more hair out. I've had this thing for a very long time, so it is a little bit on the rusty side now, but it does work the best on these horses with really, really long hair coats. I have been going at it for about half an hour now, and it looks like I've got a pretty good pile going. As you can see, the hair is still just coming out of him. Nigel still does not look impressed. I am going to be extra careful on his soft underbelly. This area does have a lot of really long hair. Huckleberry seems to have calmed down after his scare from earlier. I know that I've said it before, but these little horses are a ton more work than the big ones. Here I am using that Slick and Easy pumice block to get some of the hair off. When I stop getting hair off with one little tool, I move to the next to see if maybe it'll work better. This one is getting clogged up because he still has way too much hair coming out at once. He does look pretty clean now, but I promise he is disgusting under all of this hair. Usually when I brush him for this long, he gets pretty impatient, but I have been putting him on the shaky plate every time I brush him, and I think that makes him stand a little bit better. After all of this scraping, I think I will probably have to go on the shaky plate tonight as well. Every time I think I might be getting to the bottom of his hair, it just pops back up again. He just has layers and layers of his little pony hair coming out. I did schedule out a pretty big chunk of time to do this today, but it looks like I might be running out of time. My little arms are getting tired and my back is starting to hurt from crouching down to his level, so I think this is going to be all I'm going to get done tonight. I always seem to forget how exhausting this task is. The other horses do take a couple of brushings to get their hair coat out, but it is nothing like Nigel's. I'm just going to take one more pass around this guy for good measure. He does seem like he's getting a little bit squirmy and is kind of overstanding still. He definitely has a lot of the hair on his head that needs to come out.
Nigel.
He did have ear mites when I bought him, so sometimes he is super sensitive about you touching his ears still. His little forehead hair is still pretty stuck in there, so I'm just going to give him a little bit of a scratch. It is really thick, so it's got to be itching. I had a few people ask if I cut this hair out with that tool, but it honestly just pulls right out when it's ready to shed. It appears like Nigel is completely over our activity for the day. I don't really ever like to untie a horse when they start squirming, so I'm going to brush him for a little bit longer until he stands still. Even though this guy is pretty old, it doesn't make any sense for him to lose all of his manners completely. It is still perfectly reasonable to expect him to stand quietly tied while I groom him. This doesn't put very much physical strain on his body, so he's just really annoyed that we're still at it. After about 10 more minutes of brushing, he quiets down so I can finally get all of this hair off of me and sweep it up out of the barn. I got a pretty gigantic pile out of him for only one day. Nigel's shedding process is a multi-day activity, and this is a pretty good start. As you can see, there are no tricks here. This is all Nigel's hair that I got out of him today. I have to think that he's going to feel a lot better when it warms up during the day. This is just going to get saved up, and I'm putting it in a bucket so I can see how much hair I get off of him when I'm all done. I've got a few things to put away, and then I'm going to go ahead and let him have some time on the shaky plate. I have been slowly amping it up to see exactly what he likes the best. Sometimes it does take a little bit of wiggling to get him on just right. He was very interested in saying hello to Frisco. I am pretty surprised that these two old boys have become such good friends. They are both a little bit grouchy and they kind of like their own space.
Okay, there you go.
I've been able to get Nigel on the shaky plate every other day when I groom him, and I really do think that it's making a big difference in his overall health. He seems a lot more spry overall, and I can tell when he stands on it that he is pretty relaxed. I probably should have just let him stand on it while I was shedding him out today. He is a pretty smart old chap, and when he wants it turned up, he'll just put his little nose on it for me. Now that I have the plate adjusted just to his liking, he is snoozing away. I, of course, have to sit on the cold, hard floor. When he's done on the shaky plate, he runs right over to Frisco Bill to pester him and try and get all of his hair undone. After brushing this little guy for so long, I am feeling pretty exhausted.
Tiny!
It looks like Tiny was up in the hay taking a nap this whole entire time.
Come on, Tiny.
It seems like she is having a pretty good time up there and doesn't want to come down. It is dinner time for the horses, so I'm gonna go ahead and start giving everybody their hay. I'm gonna leave my camera set up to see if Tiny crawls down while I'm away. She does just climb right down the tarp, so I'm not worried that she can't come down. She probably just doesn't want to. Tiny kind of seems like she's tucked into her little haystack for the night. I'm gonna go ahead and finish feeding, and then I will come back to do Nigel in a few days. It looks like his hair is a little bit disheveled. I can tell he's been rolling around his dry lot and leaving little patches of hair. I'm gonna go ahead and give him another little brush today, and hopefully I'll get out a lot more of his winter coat. His hairdo from the other day has turned into a little bit of a messy bun. This is all of the hair that I already got off of him.
Oh, buddy.
Huckleberry has been having a hard time again. Sometimes when I shed these guys out, it seems like a thankless task. It almost looks like I didn't even do anything 2 days ago. It looks like his little butt cheeks are the only things that are really shed out. I am pretty much going to do the same exact thing I did the other day. I've pretty well established that this tool is going to be the best one for the length that his hair coat is. It looks like Huckleberry is peanut butter and jealous. I know he looks the part, but Huckleberry is not a very good working dog. He doesn't have a lot of actual responsibilities around here other than to watch the horses and keep Tiny company. Some days when I'm busy with the horses all day long, he does get kind of blue if I'm ignoring him. And it looks like today he is really laying it on thick.
What's wrong? Hey, buddy. Come on. Shake your troubles away.
I'm thinking that maybe a little time on the shaky plate is just what he needs. Him and Tiny will come in and sit down on it when they want me to turn it on. I actually think he wants me to sit on it with him. He is such a needy little dog sometimes. Hopefully this will raise his spirits a little bit.
What's wrong, buddy? What's wrong?
He has me wrapped around his tiny little paw. Since the weather is nicer, I have been spending a lot more time with the horses, and I know he is jealous. I was able to get through Nigel pretty quick today, and I got out a ton more hair, so I'm just going to spray him down with some of this laser sheen. This should help his coat stay nice and detangled, and hopefully he won't get any poop or mud stuck on him in the next couple of days. I am also going to go ahead and take his braids out and probably condition his hair. I am actually surprised that this stayed in for almost 2 full days.
Crazy, buddy.
I went ahead and conditioned his tail as well. If I put detangler in his mane every so often, it does a really good job of keeping it nice and healthy and strong. After a quick sweep, I am going to add all of this hair to the bucket. Frisco Bill is acting a little bit jealous of Nigel as well. The only one that's not jealous of all of the time I'm spending with Nigel is Nigel himself. Every time I brush him, it seems like he is more excited to get back to his little pen than spend any extra time with me. Huckleberry's new tactic is sitting on me so I can't go get any more horses.
Hey, buddy. What's wrong?
Nigel seemed plenty relaxed today, so I didn't put him on the shaky plate.
Nigel, you hungry?
He was really excited to get his old man dinner after I was done. And he looks pretty ridiculous with his poofy little forelock. I did spend some extra time on the shaky plate with Huckleberry, and I think this is what he wanted all day long.
Good boy.
He seemed pretty content to sit and have a little bit of a shakedown at the end of the day.
Buddy.
Nigel still has quite a bit of hair to shed out, so I'll be back in a few days. I ended up waiting 2 more days to go ahead and get him shed out some more. It is extremely hot today. I actually think I got a sunburn already today. He is looking like he could use a trim pretty soon. When I start brushing him, it looks like I again have not done a single thing the last couple days. I am just gonna buckle down and go through and try and get as much hair off of him as I can. It is actually almost 75 degrees today, which is crazy for springtime in Montana. I know that this guy is getting hot, and if I don't get this hair out soon, I'm gonna have to set up a fan for him. Huckleberry continues to be jealous of all of the smothering that Nigel is getting. He is in a little bit better spirits today than he was the last couple days. Nigel has grown increasingly annoyed with all of the shedding that I've been doing.
Nigel. I know.
He still has tons of hair coming off of his little head. I did get quite a bit of hair off of him again today. He is starting to look a little bit better, but he obviously has a ton of winter hair still left on him. It does seem a little bit silly, but I had to braid his hair in order to give him a bath. I won't be able to wash his body if I try and wash his mane at the same time. His legs have also had a really hard time shedding out. I am gonna trim them up with a pair of clippers though. Hopefully he won't look too ridiculous with tiny little stick legs and his poofy mammoth body. I don't really clip the horses very often other than every now and again. I like all of my horses to keep their whiskers, and I don't trim their ear hair or anything like that. Sometimes it is beneficial to shave their legs just so they're not getting fungus or other nasty gunk built up under there. Nigel is all around a pretty docile beast. I was able to get one of his legs clipped so you can see the difference. He is pretty dirty underneath his hair, so I'm gonna have to give him a bath if I want to clip the rest of his legs.
I'm gonna spray you.
He definitely thinks he's going back out into his little pony pasture, but I've got other plans for him today. Nigel is a very well-behaved gentleman, but he does not like getting baths. I don't think Huckleberry was really helping today. And I do think that Nigel was upset I was using the spiky gloves on him again. I made sure to scrub up his legs really well so they would be easier to clip for me. I was having a lot of trouble getting down to his actual skin to clean it. The longer I scrubbed him, the more annoyed he was getting. He got a little bit confused when he thought I might be bringing him a snack in this bucket. He has gotten a lot of bucket baths before, so he knows what this is all about. It seems like over the last couple of days, he has run out of patience for me. Huckleberry made sure to keep a very close eye on what I was doing.
Oh, Nigel.
Eventually, I got all of the soap out of him. But when I went back to see how clean he was, I noticed that there were places on his body that didn't even get wet. This is a pretty good representation of how thick his coat actually is. This little guy could probably stand out in the pouring down rain and not actually get wet with how thick his coat is. I did put him in a stall, so hopefully he stays a little bit clean, but that really didn't work too well. As soon as I put him out after he was dry, he ended up rolling again and getting absolutely filthy. He seemed particularly proud of himself, though. It has been over a week since I started shedding this guy out. His braids that I put in the other day didn't last very long at all. Today I am going to give him a little bit of a trim. I have noticed that his feet are getting super hard. He doesn't look like he has a whole lot of hair that wants to come out today, so I'm just going to trim his feet and then clip the rest of his legs. These clippers are making a little bit of a weird sound today. I did buy these at the Goodwill, so this might be the reason that they were there. After trying with these clippers, I ended up just going and getting a different pair that I have. These are not as heavy duty, so I'm hoping they'll get through his hair now that he's clean. I don't typically body clip horses, so I don't have a really heavy duty pair of clippers. These were really getting clogged and it was taking me an extremely long time to get through this guy's legs. He was being a super good boy though. I am really glad I decided to do this because he has a little bit of funkiness going on underneath all this hair. As I was clipping his legs, I got it in my little brain that it might be a good idea if I just clipped his whole entire body. And it took me about 3 minutes to decide that this was a horrible idea. I took a few really awful swipes down this guy's coat and my clippers just could not get through his thick hair. I exhausted every single pair of clippers that I had and got covered in all these tiny little spiky pieces of hair. Huckleberry was also not very impressed with my decision. At this point, I ended up texting a few friends to see if they could come out and body clip Nigel for me. It is a little bit tricky because I don't really want to haul him anywhere because I think it might be too much stress for him. I did shave almost all of one side of his neck, so I'm going to put some Desitin on it so he doesn't get sunburn. I can feel Huckleberry judging me pretty hard right now. It's not a big deal. Nobody else is at my barn, so nobody will see Nigel looking like this. I think I'm just going to have to break down and buy a proper pair of clippers to body clip him with, so I will have to finish this activity a little bit later. Thank you guys so much for watching and stay tuned for the next video.